I think we are live now. And I would first like to ask the panel members if everybody can hear me.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
That's fine. So welcome to all of you who are interested to hear something about the PhD program at the European University Institute in Florence. And I would like to thank jobs.ac.uk for giving us the possibility to organize this webinar. So first of all, I will say a few words about the EUI. Then I will present, or I will ask the panel members to present themselves, say something about how we will deal with the questions, and then go question by question. So if you are considering to pursuing a PhD at the EUI, it may be very well that the PhD at the European University Institute is the best fit for you. Not necessarily, but it may well be. The timing of this webinar is also quite right, because the call for applications has been opened on the 2nd of November, and you can apply until the end of January 2017. In brief, the institution focuses exclusively on doctoral and postdoctoral studies in the social sciences, and more specifically in the areas of law, economics, political and social sciences, and history and civilization. And it brings together an international community of scholars in Florence. So this is by way of introduction to the EUI. Now, I would like to introduce the panel members of today who are going to answer your questions. And we have 6 members who are participating today, 2 professors, 2 administrators, and 2 researchers. So let me first introduce myself. I'm from Belgium. My name is Veerle Dekmin, and I'm the director of the academic service. And I will ask now Professor Arpad Abraham to introduce himself, please. Arpad?
Hello, my name is Arpad Abraham. I'm a Hungarian. I'm a professor of macroeconomics here at the Department of Economics. I'm actually also the head of the department, and I do research on taxation and design of social insurance programs like unemployment insurance and pensions. And I have been taught and supervised students before in the United States.
Thank you. Stefano, can I ask you please to introduce yourself?
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Stefano Bartolini. I'm Italian. I am a member of the Social and Political Science Department, and I work broadly in the field of comparative politics.
Thank you. Then we go to Lorenzo.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lorenzo Ghezzi. I come from Italy, and I'm the admissions officer at the EUI. So my job is to administratively coordinate the PhD selection procedure. So I'm the one managing the applications, and as well the admissions to the EUI PhD program. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we go to our researchers. Can I ask Agnieszka Smolenska to present herself?
Hi everyone. My name is Agnieszka Smolenska, and I'm a third-year researcher in the law department. Before starting the PhD, I studied in London and in Brussels, and I worked for a little bit in Brussels as well.
And Nick?
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nick Maidlan. I'm also a third-year researcher in the Department of History and Civilization at the EUI. Prior to pursuing my PhD research here, I researched in Shanghai and in London, and I work on early modern Italian history.
Thank you very much. So you know whom you have in front of you to answer questions. Now, I would like to say something about the questions. We have received a number of general questions, which we would like to address in a good order. But if you're watching live today and you would like to ask us a question, you can use the chat box on the side of your screen to do so. You will only be able to ask a question, though, if you are signed into YouTube. So if you're not signed into YouTube, you can use a tweet at jobs.ac.uk, but then you have to use the hashtag JobsQ. So having said that, I've seen that already some questions are coming in, but as anticipated, we would like to, first of all, to address the questions we received in advance, and which are many, And so I would like to ask the first question to Professor Abraham and Professor Bartolini. And the question is, how are PhDs supervised? So can I ask Arpad, please, to reply to that question?
I'm happy to answer that. So the EUI is a very unique place among all the universities when you can do your PhD in social sciences, because this is probably the only place when there is no other teaching activities. There is no undergraduate, there is no master program. So the professors are focusing all their efforts in the PhD teaching and supervision. And this is a very important thing, because in some ways, in the EUI, everything is going to be moving around the PhD program. And what does it imply? That people are going to be always available. We have a lot of opportunities if you come here to talk to your supervisors, to make presentations, to get feedback from your supervisors, to get feedback from other professors, and get feedback from our PhD students. So it is providing a very, very fruitful and very fertile environment to do research, because we are only focusing on our PhD students. And this is combined with the fact that the departments are really only consists members who are very active in the frontier of research in their fields in economics, law, political science, sociology, or history. And it is another unique feature of the place. And what all this comes to is that in the EUI, I would say, compared to other European institutions, the supervisor researcher, the supervisor student relationship is much closer, much less hierarchical than in other departments, especially in Europe, and that helps a lot to blossom the students and come out with research ideas in a very supportive environment. This also shows that given we are a relatively small community of professors and students, there are a lot of activities outside the professional, the academic field when we meet. So there are a lot of social activities when students and professors are meeting, including soccer and many other activities. So this is, in this sense, I think supervision is great here, and partially great because we have a very special institution which fosters this close relationship between professors and students.
Okay, thank you very much, Arpad. Stefano Bartolini, I would like to have your answer to how PhDs are supervised in your department, for example.
Yes, let me add, I mean, some of the consideration of my colleague stands, of course. I add a few more practical indication concerning the SPS department. When you are recruited at the EUI and you arrive in early September, normally you start with an intensive program that allows you to acquaint yourself with the library, the EUI service, and with languages. That's one peculiarity of our place. There would be, throughout your studies here, a strong attention to your linguistic skills. Although most of our work is in English, we care very much about access to other linguistic skills. You would normally be assigned a provisional supervisor, which has very much to do with the kind of professor that seems to be more close to your proposed research project. When you apply, you propose, you have a proposal, preliminary one. And this professor would help you in the first 3-4 months. Well, first of all, to understand the place and to see whether other colleagues in the department you are working with, but also in other departments, might be of some help to your designing your research proposal. We'll also begin to talk with you about what is your research proposal. Now, after this period, you would then happily, hopefully, I would say, decide what to do by December and focus on your research proposal that will have to be delivered in April. Not in all departments. In SPS, you will have to produce a proposal in April. And throughout this process, particularly in the first years, you have to be in close contact with your supervisor. Close contact means that let's set the minimum. You should see your supervisor at least once a month, but that's really a minimum in the first year. And of course, there are differences among professors. As you know, the staff at the EUI is international, so there are people coming from different countries with different traditions. But nevertheless, the emphasis on the place is on close connection. And there are students that, in particular in the first year, and particularly in the first months, see their supervisor every 10 days or every week even. That changed from one student to another and one professor to another. But generally speaking, we insist very much that you should see your supervisor or the professor you are working with very, very often. Now, the situation changed over time. I mean, presumably, if you were admitted to the pursuit of the doctorate, you will have a different style of contact in the second year and then in the third year or in the fourth year. But at the beginning, you would be closely followed by your professor or professors, because in fact, you can also have more than one professor that follows you. And they can accompany you up to the end of the thesis, a supervisor and co-supervisor.
Thank you very much. The second question is a question on the structure of the program, and both professors have already been have already been referring to some of the structured program, but I would like to emphasize that the EUI PhD is a 4-year structured program, which allows you to undertake your original research. So it's not a team that you have to take on. You can propose, as was indicated before, you can undertake your original research and do that using a wealth of resources which are available to you, amongst others, an extremely very well-equipped library, which is at your disposal. So the program is structured with, of course, very specific deadlines and expectations from year 1 to year 4, but it is also offering at the same time a lot of freedom, as was indicated by both professors, to engage with scholars from other disciplines, with other professors, discussing with people who may work on similar projects, similar topics, but who look at it from another angle or from another discipline. You can attend also workshops and seminars and engage, go on research mission. And also, we also offer a number of academic skills, academic development skills, among which academic writing, presentation skills, teaching skills, research and publication skills. So although the program is very well structured and it gives you a structure to move within, you have a lot of adds-on and a lot of possibilities to make this experience even richer and more complex and more complete, in a way of speaking, by engaging in so many ways with other people and using other possibilities. So in a way, doing the PhD at EUI is in a certain way transformative, because it's an international community of scholars, so there is no national dominance, and the place is small, the departments are small, so that it's very informal to engage with others, and so to take the best out of your research and of your personal and professional development. So this is what I would like to say about that. But of course, we can see if other questions come in or if people want to react. But the third question is a question which we have, there were many of those, asking what are the criteria to be accepted, eligible for EUI scholarship. And I would like to ask Lorenzo, who is the admission officer, who is dealing mostly with those things, to reply to that question.
Thank you very much, Ver. This is indeed one of the most common questions that we are usually receiving. So I would like to explain to all the prospective applicants who are watching us a few basic pieces of information regarding the scholarship. First of all, let me point out again that whoever is accepted, all the candidates who are accepted at the EUI will receive a 4-year scholarship, which will provide for a monthly grant, and tuition fees are also covered. So we approximately have 150 new scholarships available every year. And the first question that we should answer is who's paying for the scholarships. So the scholarships are financed by the EUI member and associate member states, the EUI itself, and some other grant authorities. It's very important that all candidates familiarize with this word, grant authority, because this is how we call the member states, the funding authority, online on the website and as well in the actual application form. So I would say that the most important information that you should have regarding the way to apply and to secure a scholarship can be the three following ones. So the first one is that you should check on the website, and our website contains very detailed information about this, if you are eligible for a specific grant, a specific scholarship. So the eligibility criteria which are set by each grant authority are somehow connected to the nationality, to the residency. It can be connected to the degree, its time of award, and in a few cases there are very specific requirements, such age limits or other criteria which are set by the national authorities. This will lead me to the second piece of information that applicants should bear in mind, which is that they can select up to 3 grant awarding authorities, and the selection is made directly in the application form. This is actually the first element of the application form. And so my advice will be not only check the country, the page which is related to the country of your nationality, but also to have a look at the country page of the country where you have studied or where you are currently living, because you may well be eligible for that as well. So remember that you can select up to 3. You should only select the grant authority for which you have a valid reason for being eligible. And last but not least, you should also note that an application for the EUI, in the greatest majority of cases, is automatically an application for the grant. So you just have to select the grant authority in the application form. If you are then selected, you will automatically receive the 4-year scholarship, and the tuition fees will be also covered. It's important that you also note that this is not valid for a small number of countries, for example, the UK, Spain, the Netherlands. So you should, again, have a look at the website on the very specific country page, where you can find all detailed information and as well the conditions of the grant and the scholarship itself, which are different country by country. And also remember that of course, all applicants can contact the admissions office, which is available to assist them with any doubts or any queries that they may have.
Thank you, Lorenzo. I would like to use this opportunity to come in with 2 other issues. The first thing is related to the eligibility criteria, and a question came in about Brexit. Of course, not everybody who's watching us is from the UK and will be affected by that, if affected. But what I would like to say is that for the time being, the UK is still a member of the European Union, first of all. Secondly, the European University Institute is an intergovernmental institution, and the United Kingdom is member of the EUI as an intergovernmental institution. So for the time being, this remains as it is, and we hope that indeed that the UK will remain as we expect to be a member of our institution. The second thing I would like to add is that you talked about, Lorenzo highlighted the eligibility criteria, which are the criteria which are requested by the member states who are paying for the scholarship. But of course, there is also the academic criteria, which are very important and which professors looks at, of course, if they go through their selection. And those are 4. There is the academic record, of course, which is looked into. There is the quality of the research proposal, the potential supervision, because the departments are not so big or small, and of course somebody needs to closely supervise the researcher, language abilities, and for the economics department, they also ask mandatory to have a GRE component included in their application. So to make this question complete, I thought it was useful to add also those criteria. And I do not know whether Professor Abraham or Professor Bartolini would like to come in on those selection criteria maybe, or if that would be sufficient.
Well, go ahead, Arpad.
Arpad?
Yeah, I would add one thing which is specific to economics, another thing which is specific to economics, just to make it clear for those who are interested in applying to the economics program. For us, the research proposal has a relatively small weight in the evaluation process, because economists usually don't get not necessarily have a clear-cut idea when they apply what type of research one they want to do, and they go through a full year of coursework in the first year. And that is forming a lot their expectations and ideas about what type of research they want to do. So for economics, the research proposal and also the supervising potential is less of an important criterion compared to the other departments.
Thank you. Professor Bartolini?
Yes, that's perhaps an important difference in the sense that in other departments, certainly in SPS, we also closely look at the research proposal, in full knowledge that this is not likely to be the final proposal, of course. There will be plenty of opportunities to modify it, but it's essential for us to know whether you have an idea of the field in which you want to work and of the kind of question you would like to address. These are implications for the fit. I mean, social sciences in general are a broad field, composed by many elements. You could think about international relations, sociology, political science, and political theory. And given that our faculty is limited, of course, like every faculty, we have to know what is your field. In a sense, it is important that you do not apply in a field which is totally unsuited to be pursued at the EUI. And I would advise, therefore, that potential applicants should have a look at least at the composition of the faculty of the department before they think about applying or not applying.
Thank you very much. I would like to add some answers to questions which came in and which are related to our discussion here. That is that it is not possible to do a PhD on distance. I mean, residence is required. And another question which come in is that I would like to say that we have every year around 1,500 applications from everywhere. And we have approximately 150 fully funded scholarships. So this is my answer to some questions which appeared on my screen. And I would like now to go to another question, which I would like Lorenzo to ask to answer very briefly. Is on what is exactly the selection process?
Exactly. We have already spoken about the selection criteria, which all applicants can also find online on the information pages. So you can apply already now. The application form is active, and it will be active until the end of January, so the 31st of January 2017 until midnight. Our advice is always to register as early as possible, because you will find this clearly explained online, but you should give enough time to your referees to submit the reference letters, which are submitted directly by the professors and other academics who can judge on your academic capacities online. So register as early as possible. So after the deadline, we will take a little bit of time to review the applications, to screen them. Of course, the EUI departments will apply the selection criteria, which we have briefly outlined before, and the grant authorities will check your eligibility, and then a small pool of applicants will be pre-selected and invited for an interview in Florence. You can already find the dates for the interviews in 2017, which will be held here in Florence from the 27th to the 30th of March. And it's important that you note that we will pay a travel contribution for you to come and arrive in Florence to take your interview and eventually a language test. And shortly after the interview, after approximately 1 or 2 weeks, we will inform candidates about the results of the interview, and as well we will proceed with the offers of admission. Again, I guess there is no need to speak about the selection criteria because we have already seen them before, and all the information are clearly stated online. So I don't know if Bert would like to add something to this question.
No, I think that's fine. Maybe the only thing is that was I said that we have around 1,500 applications, 150 scholarships, and we invite about 300
yes.
candidates to come to Florence, where you have the opportunity, first of all, to see Florence, to see the EUI with its various buildings, and where you will be expected to talk about your research projects with professors from the department, and to have an exchange of views on your subjects. And it's indeed what both professors have indicated, that you may come with a project which seems to be extremely valid to you, but which is maybe too broad, or maybe not focusing enough, or maybe where, in order to have a good supervision, maybe you have to slightly review it in a different direction. So all those things can be discussed there when you're proposing your research project, and after which there will be a decision taken by the department on who will be on the list for admission. So let's move to some other questions, and I have some for our researchers, Nick and Agnieszka. And the first question that came up, which is of course as interesting as the project itself, is what is life like as a PhD researcher at the EUI?
Yes,
so Agnieszka, Nick.
Thanks very much, Vera. I think, of course, as has been discussed, the writing of a thesis and the production of independent research is perhaps the core of the academic experience at the EUI, but there's also a huge amount of other things going on. And to restate what Vera said, I think it really is in many ways a transformative experience, spending a period of time here as a researcher. I'll just touch upon some of the other academic activity as experienced from a researcher's perspective. And what I think is really crucial here is another point that was emphasized before, the amount of academic freedom and really intellectual autonomy that we as researchers are able to achieve and to exercise. Alongside the structured program, writing a substantial piece of independent research, there's also a lot of opportunities for researchers to organize events, to organize workshops through different research-focused working groups, to organize events, to invite visiting professors, and also to operate between disciplines, between departments. And I think this all contributes to creating an academic and environmental culture of intellectual kind of reflection and kind of deep, profound thinking. I think this really instills PhD researchers here with a really interesting kind of innovative perspective on the world. There's also a lot of institutional encouragement and facilitation of thinking about new ways of thinking about research. Many of the professors here are doing very cutting-edge methodological and theoretical research. And all these kind of come together to create a really interesting environment to be doing a PhD in.
Agnieszka?
A little bit on the, maybe a little bit of a different side of the life as a PhD researcher at the EUI. So PhDs are often described as this kind of solitary experience. You have your own research project and you work on it alone over a period of 4 years. The EUI is really not like this in many ways. It starts from the working spaces. So we work in, if you work at the EUI, you work in common working spaces, which are very well equipped, and we all kind of work together. We have a very vibrant after-hours bar on the ground as well, where you have the opportunity to integrate with the other researchers and more broadly with the EUI community. And you also have a lot of support for various types of extracurricular activities. So starting from sports, we have a lot of different clubs which are very active. Tennis, personally I was in the rowing club for 1 year, and I can tell you, even 1 year of rowing under the Ponte Vecchio, the famous bridge of Florence, it doesn't get old. It's breathtaking every time. Then different types of activities are more on the creative side. So there's a theater group, both French, Francophone and English. There's a music society which organizes concerts for the whole community as a whole. And then you also have an opportunity to get involved with more volunteer type work, which is either in Florence, so then you can volunteer with different associations and get connect a little bit more with the city as well, or within the EUI, we have our own refugee initiative, which is a very collaborative initiative across the researcher community, the administration, and the faculty as well, where the EUI hosts a number of refugees on its grounds, and you can get involved in that as well. So it can be a solitary experience, but not here.
And I really think the combination then of this kind of academic research-oriented activities and these, the work alongside these more kind of creative and less focused activities to make a really nice place to be, actually, as well as a fulfilling place to be.
Mm-hmm. So thank you very much. You have heard two experiences from current researchers. They're both also representatives of the researchers. We have also that at the EUI. But if you want to have more testimonials, experiences, I would recommend you to go to the EUI website, where you can see a whole range of people who have been giving their testimonials, their experiences as a researcher, and it is on my EUI experience, hashtag my EUI experience. So you have their testimonials from all different researchers from different departments with different experiences, and I leave it to you to look at them and to see what you think of it. Another question also for both of you, Agnieszka and Nick, is what it is like to move to Florence.
Yeah, thanks. I'll also offer a few thoughts about this experience. As has been said, the EUI is an intergovernmental and international institute. Also really a transnational institute. There's a huge number of different languages spoken here, although the working language is often in English. There's also Italian, French, German, Spanish, and it's a very kind of multilingual space. At the same time, it's of course just outside Florence, really on the edge of the city. And so learning Italian and working in Italian, living in Italian is really an important part of the experience. I think a very fulfilling part of the experience. And the Institute does a huge amount to support this, both through formal language training. There's a really good language center here, which does a lot of different classes for different abilities. Also in other languages, they teach a huge number of languages and try to be very accommodating of different researchers' needs. They also organize many opportunities to learn Italian, which are not necessarily formal classes, but rather are informal events, guided walks, these kind of things. So learning Italian is really, I think, a fundamental part of moving here in a very fulfilling experience, and helps you experience the city outside of this international space.
Would you like to say something about yeah, sorry, Agnieszka?
Oh, yes. I think just maybe to add on what Nick was saying, I think regardless of where you are moving from, so whether you are used to these big international environments or if it's the first time you are moving abroad, Florence is very, very flexible in that regard and a very easy city to arrive in many ways. What you have here are definitely the typical Italian things, the good food, good wine, and nice weather. But you also have, and I think this is also, as Nick was saying, very much facilitated by the institution itself, a high quality of life. I think that's the best way to describe it. So, yeah, it's and also which might be a concern for some of you, Florence is very well connected with both within Italy, so it's quite easy to explore the country itself, and it's easy to travel outside of the country. So you move here and it's a beautiful life, but you remain connected.
I also think it's a really interesting place to spend a few years, to spend 3 or 4 years to write your PhD, in terms of thinking about Europe, thinking about the European Union, thinking about seeing the world really from Italy and from Florence is quite interesting. It's quite a different perspective from, in my experience, seeing it from the UK. So it's an interesting place, I think, a really good place to spend a few years for many reasons.
Thank you. So what I would like to add to moving to Florence is two maybe more down to earth things, but which people may be interesting to know, is about the housing. So the EUI has, of course, some flats, some EUI flats, which students can rent. And for the rest, we also assist people who come here with, we have a housing database where people can look into and find appropriate housing in the city, on the grounds, or maybe in the hills of Fiesole, or maybe further on. First thing. The second thing I wanted to mention is that the EUI also has a creche. So we have in one of the villas a wonderful creche. So as of 6 months, the babies can be brought there. And of course, this is also an international creche. Some researchers also have babies when they're here. So that's also something which is not trivial if one comes here with a baby or in a couple, that to know that you can safely leave your baby in the arms of some people who take care of them. So this is something that I wanted to add. I have, before moving to another question, I would like to ask both professors if they could please answer the question which appears on my screen, and which is, does a research proposal have to be related to the work of the European Union, or can it be more related to international relations? So maybe Stefano, if you could answer that question first, please.
Yeah, I see a couple of questions of this nature on my screen, because I have the question on my screen. Now, no, the answer to the question about the EU, no. The fact that the name of the university is European University Institute does not imply in any sense that here we do only work about European integration. To give you a concrete figure, probably only 2-3 out of 10 theses here concern the EU. So the vast majority does not concern the EU. And they can be, I'm looking at another question, theses that are also theoretical in nature. That is, there are not only empirical research, but there are also theoretical research. We have chair in political theory. There is a traditional political legal theory, and of course, so there is no specific orientation in this sense in the department. These are classic departments which have some limitation due to the size, like every department on earth, but I have no inbuilt limitation concerning the topics or the approach to the topic.
Arpad, would you like to join us there and add some of your...
I cannot say it better than Stefano said it, that I agree. I wouldn't add much more to this particular question.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we go to another question which we received, and that is, what are the career prospects after the EUI Ph.D? I have some statistics, maybe just to say a few words, and then I leave the floor to both professors. What we see is that the completion rate, of course, of the people who start a thesis and who end them is very high. And what we see is that especially people from the political and social science department and historians are still for the major part going to academia, whereas economists and lawyers, this is a bit half-half. Half of them go to academia, and whereas others go to international organizations, European institutions, NGOs, national administration. So this is as far as the overall statistics is concerned, but I would like to invite both Stefano and Arpad to come in here. Stefano, can I start with you?
No, start with Arpad this time.
Okay.
So sure.
So I'm happy to talk about this. So let me put it into two parts. First, let me comment on the statistics. So Verle is right. The economic students go, I would say, 40% to institutions and 60% academia. But it is partially because in the field of economics, there is a huge demand for PhD researchers or PhD graduates in institutions. So we have our students very often get positions in the research departments of the International Monetary Fund, the European Central Bank, the World Bank, the OECD, many of the national central banks, which have extensive research departments, the Bank of England, the Bank of Spain, the Bank of Italy. So this is or actually the Federal Reserve System of the US or the Bank of Canada. So that's part of the reason. It's not very different. So the preparation for this type of jobs is very similar than preparing for academic jobs, because you have to build the same skills and you have to follow the same methods, and then you have to write similar research papers. The other 60% is going for academic jobs. In economics, it's very often already starting as assistant professors, but also postdoctoral fellows. And the placement record, I would be very proud to say, it's very nice. We send people for most of the top European universities like Cambridge, Bocconi, Toulouse, Barcelona, Paris School of Economics, and also sometimes to American schools like New York University or Cornell University. So the placement record is good. So let me add a related issue which was not directly asking this question. So we also see in our department, and I think in general in the EUI, one of the part of the supervision activities is to prepare people for the next stage of their career. So how to approach looking for a job, what type of jobs they can apply, how to prepare for job market interviews, how to prepare for job market presentations. So I think we are providing very good support of this. And then when you apply, who are watching us now, for PhD programs, you should see this as an important aspect of the training, because one thing is learn all the skills and make a great research, but it almost as important is to be able to communicate it efficiently. So this is, I think, important, and we are trying to improve, and I think we are doing already a great job in this respect as well.
Thank you very much, Arpad. I would like to add to that indeed the economics departments are doing a very great job in preparing the students for the job market. In general, also the Institute Academic Service is paying a great attention to making sure that the researchers acquire the necessary skills in writing skills, presentation skills, but also preparing for a job interview, which we film and then comment on and so on. So in other words, we also provide the more general skills so that they are very well equipped to enter into the job market. And of course, adding that to having a very good PhD, because that remains very important wherever you apply. That's relevant. I would like to turn to Professor Bartolini for if you have any additions to that in your department or in for the SBS.
Not much to add. Of course, it goes without saying that in history and SBS, the proportion of people that orient themselves toward academia after having obtained the PhD is higher than in law and economics, and probably this reflects a situation which is typical everywhere, not only at the EUI. It isn't clear to me whether this is self-selection, that is, if our students come here because they want to become professor, and in this case they are clearly enormously successful, or any other reason. The fact is also that, however, those researchers that do not aim at academia have found so far excellent job in international organization. When we look at our alumni from SPS, for instance, we find them in the European Union in great numbers, and also at the OECD, and they are very successful even in that. So I don't know whether the proportion is in a sense a self-selection of. We are successful in both areas, I mean, in a sense, though indeed the numbers suggest that we are mainly training European university professors.
That's correct. Thank you very much. I have some questions which came in, and one of them is for you, Arpad. It's about, the question is it possible to hear something more about the GRE needed for the economics department? Any minimum score required? Is it possible to apply without GRE and communicate the score after the deadline?
So the second question with Lorenzo,
yes.
If you manage to communicate it after the deadline, but before the decision, we are going to accept it. So that shouldn't discourage people to accept, but we don't put an official minimum criterion because we are weighting the GRE with other factors. And also the pointing system changed, so I wouldn't want to give a rough one because I'm old enough to go through many different ways of calculating the GRE, so I don't remember now which is the exact current reporting on. But the most important thing is that it's very important, but you can do it after the submission deadline, but try to do before the interviews and before the decision, and then just you can submit later, and Lorenzo could help me out exactly how this works.
Actually, our policy is to require candidates to submit all the documents, so including the GRE, we ask candidates to submit directly on the online application form the GRE examinee score report, which is this report that you will get directly from ATS, but exactly because we can only guarantee that all the selection committee and the department will screen the entire application if all the documents are submitted before the deadline. It's of course, it goes without saying that if the applicants are going to submit the GRE after the deadline, this could be considered, but we will be no longer in a position to guarantee that the document and the scores will be definitely assessed and screened.
Thank you very much. Another question is about are there some periods one can spend abroad for research purposes or on missions? The answer is, of course, yes, there are such opportunities. And I would like to ask Nick and Agnieszka to reply to that. I mean, you know what that entails.
Hi, thanks very much. Yes, there's a huge number of opportunities in different departments to spend periods of time in other institutions. There are some, as far as I'm aware, there are some EUI agreements with other institutions across disciplines, and there are some disciplinary specific agreements which allow researchers from the EUI to spend 3 or 4 or sometimes 6 months in another department in another institution. There are agreements with institutions in France, in Austria, in the United Kingdom, in Germany, and really many other places in Europe. As far as I'm aware, there are also opportunities to or possibilities well, this works in both ways. I mean, it works as an exchange as well. So we also have researchers coming here from other institutions. So there's a really two-way feed, and it works very well.
I could just add to this, it's also researcher-driven, the exchanges very often, in the sense that if there is a place that you know that is relevant for your research and there is a professor that you would like to work with, the EUI is very helpful in kind of providing a formal framework for these kind of exchanges as well. So if there is something specific that you are interested in, there are possibilities for that as well, even if no formal agreements exist.
I should say we also have agreements with institutions in the United States. So in New York, in I think University of California, Berkeley, and in University of Wisconsin, Madison, which are very enthusiastically taken up, and I think very much appreciated by researchers here.
Thank you very much. I would like to add to that of course the historians are often going to on mission to archives, to cities where they have archives, where of course they can find the information which is not available in the EUI library. And but the main bottom line is that of course the supervisor needs to agree to that, and needs also to make sure that it is not a traveling experience. Of course it is traveling, but it is traveling with the purpose to take the maximum advantage of that travel, of that mission for your research and for your thesis. So this is always the bottom line, that the thesis should move on and that it should be positive for your work. Another question which is a bit related. Sorry. Yes.
A small addition, that in addition to all these great opportunities, there is also funding for students in their second, third, and fourth year to attend conferences and present their work, and to attend summer school. So this can be very useful to students. If you are accepted to a conference, you get funds to pay the registration fee, the travel expenses. So it's very important for students to disseminate their work early on, and we have funds for that in all the departments.
Thank you very much. Another question which came in, and which is of course something which I understand is very relevant, is the teaching experience. I mean, in the beginning of our talk, we said that the EUI is a doctoral and postdoctoral institution, and has of course also a major research center, which is the Robert Schuman Center for Advanced Studies, but we do not have undergraduates. And so what we do in order to make sure that the researchers have a teaching experience is, first of all, we train them in teaching skills, and this is taking a week or so, where they really are prepared to look at what do you need in order to present things well, how do you structure your presentation, anyway, everything which is related to presentation and public speaking and so forth. And then we try to find universities where students can go and have the opportunity to teach in workshops or in groups outside of the EUI. Of course, there are also many opportunities in the EUI because nearly all departments provide opportunities for researchers to present their work to their peers or to other groups of people who are interested in their work. So there is a teaching experience, but it's not like in other universities that PhD candidates can teach to undergraduates because we don't have them. So we need to find other means to acquire those skills and to provide services for that. Again, I would like to ask if one of the professors would like to come in, or Nick or Agnieszka, who would like to come in to that? No one?
Not on this, not on this. I see a very interesting question up there. 1 year trial period, I think we have to say something about the structure.
Okay, well, you can.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Well,
it's true. It's up on my screen. I didn't see that anymore.
now, indeed, I mean, there is a question about whether there is a 1 year trial period. Well, I wouldn't call it 1 year trial period, but certainly it is not that you arrive the first year and you enjoy 4 consecutive years of grant without any checking of your progress. We are a university and we do our job very carefully. So basically the situation is the following. The first year, you have to develop, shape, and improve your research project for a PhD. And this takes several steps. At a certain moment, you are asked to deliver. You are asked to deliver a research project. And in fact, you might fail. You might, I mean, the department might come to the conclusion that your research project is not good enough to make a PhD. Now, to be clear, this is a relatively rare occurrence. Exactly because our researchers are already been selected very heavily at the entrance. So they are already particularly high qualified students. Second, because there is a close connection with the supervisor. So that in a sense, during the first 6-8 months in which you prepare your proposal, you will be corrected for all those mistakes that professors, rightly or wrongly, identify in your research proposal. To give you a reference for my department, we have on average 30 new PhD every year, and we have on average 1 or 2 failure per year. So in a sense, the process is structured in such a way as to reduce failure to begin with. But of course, failure are there. In the successive years, second and third years, the situation becomes, of course, more relaxed, but researchers have to progress in their research and they have to deliver to their professor and to the department clear sign of advancement in their research project. It's not, therefore, to cut it short, it's not that you are admitted once and forever and that since then you can do whatever you want. No, you will be closely scrutinized, also because we attach a much weight to the fact that you complete the thesis as soon as possible. For us, the completion rate is an essential element, also because you can imagine there is a community of people who come here just to do the PhD and will leave at the end of their stay. And they have to leave with a PhD in their pockets. And for this, you need a close connection with your supervisor.
Thank you very much. Stefano, Arpad, you would like to say something about the...
Yeah, I mean, just want that for clarification that as economics is a somewhat more technical field, indeed we have exams in the first years, and then what we do in the first year also in economics, not everybody is passing these exams. Let's say 10% of the students might not pass the exams in the first year, but most of them pass, and we do exactly the same. To passing the exams, the prerequisite to be able to write a great dissertation. So that's the difference compared to the sociology and political science department in terms of the first year. We have more structure based upon the coursework, and hence the evaluation of the first year is more based upon the coursework. And that is the great advantage that if you pass the first year, then practically everybody is completing the dissertation and is going to be able to leave the EUI with a dissertation.
Thank you very much. I see that the clock is ticking, so I would like to slowly but surely wrap up our conversation here. If there is anybody, I have some final words to say, but is there anybody from the panel members who would like to come in on another issue which you would like to raise to the people who are watching us or will be watching us?
I've just seen, Bert, that there is a question regarding the age limits, age criteria. So I would just like to follow up on that one, briefly saying that the EUI has no age limit, but some member states could have an age limit in their eligibility criteria for the scholarship. So candidates are advised to carefully look at the relevant web page to see if this happens or not.
Yeah, I think this is absolutely right. All member states have their own eligibility criteria. We try to streamline them a bit more, but we are working on that. But indeed, it is correct what Lorenzo says, that the best thing is to look at what are the eligibility criteria for your member state, for your grant authority, so that you do not have any surprises before applying. Is there anybody else who would like to come in on a point that we have been touching upon or would like to say a final word? No one? Okay, then I would like to wrap up by saying that by wrapping up what the EUI can offer to those who are interested, having said that the PhD at the EUI may not be a fit for all, but if it fits, I think it's a wonderful place. It is a place which is exclusively focusing on doctoral and postdoctoral studies, of facilities. You have heard about the library, academic development skills, language skills. The departments are small, but there is a very close supervision. It is very informal and very one-to-one discussion. The completion rates are high and the career prospects are good. So you would end up in an international community of research scholars. And also what is very important to know, and what we know from experience, is that while you're here, you are really participating and connecting with so many scholars from all over Europe. And this connection, this alumni connection, this network connection is something which you never lose, because wherever you are, if you have been at the EUI, immediately there is this connection of knowing the place, having lived that transformative experience. So I would like to finish by reminding you that our call is open until the 31st of January, that you can visit, of course, our website, read our experiences from researchers, and if you have any question which we could not answer, then please write to applyres@eui.eu or contact the admission officer. The recording of this hangout will be available on jobs.ac.uk on their YouTube channel. So if you want to recapitalize, you can look at that. And nothing else rests me but to thank on behalf of the EUI jobs.ac.uk for their availability, to thank the panelists for their time today, and thank you all for watching us. We hope that we have answered most of your questions, and we hope that for some of you, doing a doctorate at the EUI will be appealing, and that you will consider applying. So thank you very much to you, and have a nice afternoon.